Coming up on this week's episode, I take a look at what happened yesterday in the race for the Champions League spot, whilst Liam takes a look at the relegation battle. Liam has another teaser, whilst he also dusts off his football encyclopedia for another story. I have some interesting stats in the wonders of white, so let's get started. Hello and welcome to episode 29 of View from the Sideline podcast. It's Chris here, and Liam is with us as always. Hello, Liam.
Good evening, Chris. How you doing?
Yeah, well, I think we're both very, very happy. I think after this weekend, or more relieved, shall we say?
I am still the adrenaline's still pumping.
Well, yeah, we'll go into that briefly on why we are pretty grinning from ear to ear at the moment. But yeah, so I think this is actually the last one in the series. So this is our
series.
Yeah, this is the end of series 2 today, and obviously we'll be back when the football is restarted, which I think is around about the 12th of September. I saw today that some teams are going to get a later start depending on how well they do in Europe. So that'll be sort of the time that we're aiming to come back. But in about a week's time, the podcast is officially 2 years old. So
good. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to View from the Sideline.
So we'll start this week with a very easy teaser, I'm hoping, from you, Liam. So what have you got this week?
Well, this week, as it's the last one in the series, I thought I'd give you a chance to go out in a complete blaze of glory. So it's going to take a little bit of thinking.
Oh, blimey.
Basically, there are 9 players who scored for 6 or more Premier League clubs. I've got named 5 of them, but I have a feeling that you're going to go for all 9. And I reckon if you put your brain together, I think you can probably get all 9 of them. But I'm going to ask for 5 to begin with because it will give you a bit of thinking time.
Okay, so 9 players that have scored for 6 or more
Premier League clubs.
Let's write that down just so I can have it. Okay.
Have a think while we're going along.
Yeah.
See how many you can get. I mean, I've asked for 5, but if you think you can go for all 9, then I say give it a go.
Get all 9. Jeez. Okay. We will start with this week's topics, which, it is just the end of the season. So I've kind of done a bit on the Champions League race, as obviously Chelsea were involved in that, and Liam's done a little bit on the relegation battle that he endured for 2 hours yesterday. So we'll start with the Champions League race. So 3 teams involved, or 3 teams left to get 2 spaces, third, fourth. And then obviously the team that are going to finish 5th were going to miss out. And then obviously Manchester United ended up winning and Chelsea winning as well, both 2-0. So great results for both teams. But I think the main thing to come out of this is how bad Leicester have been since lockdown. I think they look like a completely different team. I think there's a few teams in the Premier League where it seems after lockdown it's just affected them more than other teams. I think Sheffield United are probably one of those teams as well. Obviously, didn't stop Jamie Vardy picking up the golden boot. He was still scoring freely. But Jesse Lingard getting a goal for Man United.
Who would have thought of that?
Yeah, a huge...
Gifted a goal.
Yeah, a huge error by Castor Schmeichel there. And it was just glad that obviously that Leicester weren't 1-up or something at that point of the game, because that would have been... definitely would have stolen the headlines, that one, with Lingard scoring to equalise. But Man United given it a penalty. One player for me that stood out for Man United this season, even though he joined in January, is Bruno Fernandes. I think he has been that key for them for unlocking that sort of midfield. I think that's one of the areas that they were struggling before lockdown. And Fernandes has come in, and it's almost like he's been there for years. And I think without his sort of goals and his assists and his contribution in the games, I don't think they would have finished in the top 4. I'm not sure about you, what you thought on that, Liam.
No, I think he's made a huge difference, not just from what he gives you in terms of goals. And I know a few have been penalties, but he has scored a fair few. But I think you look at the United team going forward now, every time he gets the ball, all of the front three, and I could probably say Pogba as well, they're all confident to make a run and that they're going to be spotted. And when you look at all the good teams this year, like Liverpool and Man City, whenever one of the centre midfielders or one of the more creative players gets the ball, you can almost see the eyes light up of the front players because they just know they're going to get picked out every time. And I
Yeah,
think he's given them that confidence. And I think we've seen a better Anthony Martial. I think he's had, I think, quite a good year, probably his best year in a Man United shirt. And obviously Rashford has been pretty consistent this year, and Greenwood as well, especially towards the end of after lockdown. I think Greenwood's been excellent. And yeah, I think it's down to Fernandes. I think he just gives
yeah.
them the confidence that they're going to be. They've got a player that can actually provide the assist now. They don't have to do it all themselves.
Mm.
So yeah, I'll be interested to see what Solskjaer manages to do in the transfer window. Because going forward, I would say if United can keep this up next year, they're looking good without many additions. I think it's just defensively they've got to look at. I think a
Oh
new
yeah,
keeper potentially, whether that's Dean Henderson who's already there or they buy someone else. But yeah, I think if they could bolster that back four, we could see probably not a title challenge, but maybe a more comfortable Champions League place for them next year.
definitely. And I agree with you there. I think him coming in is just given more confidence for that front three. I think they've thrived with him, being the main assister in that team. What it says for Pogba, I really don't know. Obviously, his contract is running out end of next season, so it's almost like he will have to play, second fiddle to Fernandes because obviously he's been pushed back to almost sort of a centre defensive midfielder, which I don't think you probably really want to do. But we'll wait and see what happens there. But a good win for them. I think Man United have probably after lockdown have probably been the best team in the league.
Yeah.
I think they've Liverpool have considerably dipped. I think although they have been picking up wins, I don't think that they've been playing as well. But I think from where Man United were before lockdown and where they are after lockdown, I think that's a hugely successful season for Solskjaer. And for their fans, really. It's been quite some time now since I think they've experienced this sort of attacking football at their club. So
I think it
yeah.
surprised them a little bit. It certainly surprised me.
Oh yeah.
They had a good start against you. I don't want to remind you of that game,
Oh,
but
that's a long time
it's a
ago
long time
now.
ago now. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think they struggled with the opening couple of months of the season, trying to maybe figure out the style Solskjaer wanted to play. But it seems like every game they seem to be growing in confidence, growing in strength, and I think a good solid. But then again, we said this last year: a good solid transfer window could see them mount some sort of challenge. And it failed to sort of materialise really until obviously Fernandes in January. So yeah, we'll wait and see on that front. I don't know how much money they're going to spend, but I'm guessing that they've got quite a big kitty to
Oh yeah.
splash on a few transfers. But yeah, we'll wait and see. I'd be cautiously optimistic. I think if I was a
Mm.
United fan.
Well, speaking of budgets, I think Chelsea are going to have quite a substantial
I
budget
think
over the summer.
yeah,
I think they're already sort of showing that now. Obviously, they won 2-0 yesterday, which is job done, really. It was probably one of the better games that I've seen them play, especially defensively. Caballero in, Kepa out. What that means for
what did you
him.
make of that, Chris?
I'm all for it, to be fair. I think competition is good. And this isn't the first time he's been dropped for Caballero. Uh, even this season, I think even the start of this year in January, he was dropped as well. I don't think he's anywhere near the sort of level compared to his price tag that we paid for him. Not so much too many mistakes. It's just he hasn't made a huge amount of mistakes, but they've been here and there. And
Yeah,
it tends to be the more important games where he kind of lets us down. Um,
I
I
don't
think
think he
go,
inspires confidence in
no,
that
no,
line, does he?
and I think that's the main reason why sometimes we look a bit shaky at the back. I just don't think they trust him when balls are coming in.
Because he's conceded a lot from set pieces this year,
Yeah, yeah,
which
and you
kind of
see,
suggests to me they don't know if he's coming out, they don't know if he's staying back. A bit
and
of
he's always had
indecisiveness.
obviously what happened last year in the League Cup final. I think that
Yeah.
still is fresh in some of the players' minds. I think they will go for another goalkeeper. Um,
Who would you like to see?
well, they're on about this Oblak coming, but 109 million for him just seems
It's
like
a
a
lot, isn't it?
huge amount of money. Whether they can sell Kepa off as part of a deal and get him for sort of like 50, 60 million, but then you're still spending 50, 60 million on a goalkeeper.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we spent 70 odd million on Kepa, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, so Caballero in. I thought defensively, I thought we looked a lot better. And 2 goals, literally right before half time in stoppage time, out free kick, and then
Two
sort of
good goals.
yeah, sort of a gift for Giroud, the slowest player on the pitch, but he still managed to get in front of the Wolves defence. And I have to say, fair play to Giroud. I think he was almost outcast from that team. Obviously, Abraham at the start of the season was just scoring goal after goal. He was making the odd appearance from the bench, but again, I think since sort of after lockdown, he's probably been one of the best players in the league. But
Yeah, absolutely.
um, and a huge threat in front of goal, and I'm really glad that he's going to stay for another year. I think he deserves that for the performances that he put in. I remember last season, Europa League final when he played Arsenal. He was brilliant in that game as well. I think he thoroughly deserves another year
Yeah.
on that contract. I think they're sorting out Williams' contract as well. From what I see today, it's more than likely that Williams going to get that 3-year deal that he wants, which I think is a good thing. I think again, you take out Eden Hazard, Williams probably been one of the best players we've had, like signed for the past sort of 6, 7 seasons. But I think a hugely successful season for Frank Lampard. I'm not just saying that because I'm a Chelsea fan, but we were almost written off getting top 4 at the start of the season, especially after the Man United game.
Yeah.
I looked back at the BBC presenters, their predictions for top 4. One person out of 20 people had Chelsea in the top 4, and that was Matt Upson. He had them 4th. Everyone else pretty much had Liverpool, Man City, Tottenham, and either Man City. So yeah, obviously stages of the season are, I think every team has probably played poor this season apart from Liverpool.
Yeah.
There's been stages where I thought we've been playing really well. Obviously, we had to go with quite a youthful presence in the team. That's seven of our youngsters making debuts this season. I thought Mount was probably the pick of the bunch. I thought he had a hugely successful season. Pulisic, um,
Reece James has been good as well.
yeah,
He's
James,
maybe not as consistent as Mount has been, but I think
yeah,
he's a real one to look for in the future. I
and
know
then
Alexander Arnold seems to have the right back spot sewn up for years to come, but Reece he's not a bad replacement
oh no,
for
no.
for the national team. I think it's promising that position. I think we're going to be strong for quite a few years.
Yeah, it would be good to see what he's gonna do, sort of formation wise, because obviously he went 5 at the back again yesterday, and it worked
Mm.
better than what it did against. I say it worked better than what it did against Liverpool. I thought, to be fair, like the Liverpool game, I thought we didn't actually play that bad. I know we were pretty poor first half, but second half we played pretty well. Um, Sort of transfers, obviously we've got Werner, Ziyech coming in as well. Um, I'm pretty sure Havertz is gonna join. I think he's even come out and said today that he wants it done within the next couple of weeks. But there's a sort of issue between price tag, but I'm sure that can be overcome.
I'd be
Uh,
interested to see how they all fit in, especially if you say
yeah,
like Willian gets a new contract. I mean, Ziyech, is a sort. He can play on the wing. I think he can play behind the striker. So if you're buying Havertz, who also plays behind the striker, and if you're giving Willian a contract extension, someone's got to drop out. I would have thought.
It will
So
probably be
it'll be.
brilliant.
Do you think he'll be willing? Do you think he's going to
Yeah,
spend the next 3 years, as an impact player, maybe?
yeah. I think the front three. If he goes with the front three, it will be Pulisic, Werner, Ziyech. If Havertz joins, I think he'll sort of play in midfield. Um,
You have to feel sorry for Mount because I imagine Mount
yeah,
is going
I,
to be
I
the
think
one
he's still
dropping
going
out.
to be in the plans, as though I think Loftus-Cheek. What I'm not sure about Barkley. He's had good games this year, but I think even when he was at Everton, I just don't think he's ever fulfilled that full potential that he's probably
No,
got
not quite.
somewhere. But um, whether we sign anyone else transfer wise, I think Lampard's probably already got a pretty good idea of what he wants to do. I think that a new centre back will come in, um, which would probably mean the end of one of either Christensen or Zuma. He does seem to prefer Zuma at the back. I think Zuma's done well this season. I think
It was his last
he's
chance,
not
wasn't it? And I
he's
don't
not
think
the
he's done himself
best.
any harm.
Yeah, he's not the best defender, but he's nowhere near the worst that we could have. Sort of next season, I think it'll be the same sort of ambition from Chelsea. I think this season just to try and secure that top four. I don't think any team in the league at the moment is ready to challenge Liverpool for the title. But another top four finish will probably we probably would have done well. Maybe a bit more silverware, maybe somewhere. But sort of an early prediction. I'm saying top four, but yeah. So that's kind of where
It
I think
ended
we're at.
ended well for you. I did feel sorry for Wolves,
Yeah,
I must admit, because they'd been, knocking on the door for most of the season. They've obviously played a lot more games than most of the teams because their season, I think it started over a year ago now. And yeah, it was just a shame that they didn't quite.
Again,
I thought that when we started again after lockdown, I thought that Wolves would be the team to challenge for the top four, and they just drawn too many games again, like I said before.
mm,
But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they do over the summer as well, because again, I think they've got quite an astute scouting system. They seem to find these young European players, flair players, and they seem to pick them out of nowhere almost. So yeah, if they can keep that up, I think they might be in for
yeah,
a good season
they
next
can
year as well.
still they can still get Europa League.
Yeah,
Obviously, if
they need
Chelsea
you
beat
to win.
Arsenal,
Yeah,
or even if they win the Europa League themselves, they'll get the Champions League. So they've
yeah,
still got their options are still very much open at the
yeah.
moment for Europe. But so yeah, so Liverpool, Man City, Man United, and Chelsea were the finishing top four. And now, Liam, I'm going to let you get it all out.
Well, what a weekend. Yeah. So we went into the weekend. Obviously, Norwich were already down, but it was
Yeah,
going to be two teams from three. Villa started the weekend outside the relegation zone on goal difference alone. I think we were just one goal better off than Watford. Watford, obviously, having sacked Nigel Pearson a couple of weeks ago, which obviously I think hugely backfired. We spoke about it last week about what a mistake it was. I don't mean any disrespect to Hayden Mullins. I think he's probably been thrown into this role, but yeah, they looked a bit shell shocked, and I think it showed within the first half an hour or so at Arsenal when they went 3 goals down. Looked really, for all intents and purposes, like they weren't actually playing that badly. I think Arsenal just basically took the 3 chances that they had. But it looked like Watford were showing fight and spirit, but I think their problem this year has been a genuine lack of quality. I think the players that they've relied on the last few years have maybe gone missing a little bit. I mean, Pereira last season I thought was very good for them. He seems to have. I don't know whether teams have figured out how to play against him or not, but he seems to have struggled this year. The people that they brought in, they've spent quite a lot of money on relative unknown talent and not much Premier League experience. They've got a load of nationalities in that squad that sometimes you can argue maybe they don't gel or something like that, but it's really been the turnover of managers for them this season. So they ended up producing a little bit of a comeback, which is where I was getting a bit worried. So they managed to pull it back from 3-0 down to 3-2. And at that point, I was getting very nervous because Bournemouth were beating Everton by 3-1 at that time. And with 10 minutes to go, I was thinking this was going to be a really, really nervy end. And Captain Fantastic for us stepped up, blasted a shot past Fabianski, who really should be doing better. But I will take it. It was a powerful shot, so I will take that one. And I thought we were going to win our third game in 4, and I thought that was it, done and dusted. West Ham have got nothing to play for; they're not going to come back, and we're safe. And then within 90 seconds of the restart, one of the more freakish goals that I've seen this season, deflecting off Jack Grealish, looping over Pepe Reina in the style of Italia 90 against Peter Shilton. It just seemed to take an age for that ball to land in the bottom corner, but it just flicked off his foot perfectly, looped in the air over Reina, and yeah, he couldn't quite reach it. But we managed to hold on just, and I say just. It's a lot of people are saying that we've managed to survive based on goal line technology. However,
play of the season, isn't it?
Yeah, I hope that it's more that I think luck balances out throughout the season. There's been a few incidents where I think we've been unlucky with VAR, and I know that there's a difference between VAR and goal line technology, but we've had a few which I would argue are pretty much 99% decisions that should have gone our way. I think there was a handball that even the I don't know what the head of the referees is called, but even he came out after the Arsenal game and said it should have been given. And we also scored a perfectly good goal against Crystal Palace that got disallowed when the referee didn't use VAR and VAR didn't intervene. So I like to think it balances itself out. Yes, we got a huge slice of luck. Yes, if that goal goes in and we lose 1-0 to Sheffield United, then we would have been down on goal difference. But I'd hope that if that goal had gone in, the second half of that game might have been a bit different if we were chasing it rather than sticking for a 0-0 draw. But you never know. You know, some teams get a bit of luck, some teams don't. I think we've had our fair share of bad luck this year, and that one bit of good luck hasn't defined our season. But we need definite improvement if we're going to survive and hopefully do a bit better next season. I don't know how much you saw because I know you're obviously paying attention to the top end of the table. I did keep messaging you and in anxious sweats at the weekend about everything that was going on. There was times when I thought, there were until we actually got our goal. We were clinging on a little bit. We were gradually sitting deeper and deeper. It was very nervy, and we were within a goal of getting relegated. Fortunately, we managed to get that first goal. But I do feel sorry for Bournemouth. I don't know about you. It's a shame to see it go.
One of the better clubs, I think, in the Premier League. Eddie Howe, I think, is a great manager, but I think some of the signings have let them down. Some of the signings they brought in. You look back a few years ago when they bought Solanke, Ibe, or whatever he's called. These are players that they thought were going to keep them in the league, and just not turned out that way.
Big money for a small club as well.
Yeah.
I don't mean that disrespectfully to Bournemouth, but bear in mind where they were in League Two.
Oh yeah,
nearly going bankrupt to spend 15 million on someone who, basically didn't really play for them in Jordan Ivan.
I think they may struggle to get back into the Premier League straight away.
Do you think they'll manage to keep? I'm thinking about Wilson probably, and
I think Wilson
David
will
Brooks.
I think Wilson and Brooks are probably two that will probably. I think if a Premier League team was to come, I think they'd probably ask to leave. I'm thinking more. Yeah,
Dean's listening. Yeah,
I'm thinking more sort of what's going to happen with Eddie Howe. He was pretty quiet yesterday after a long season.
They gave it everything.
Oh
they played very well in the last game.
Yeah.
I know they've struggled with injuries, but based on that performance, they really, it wasn't for lack of want. There are some teams that go down like Norwich with a bit of a whimper, and they're not really bothered, but they'll still fight in there till the end. I think if they'd have had a fully fit squad, especially at the start of this season, they might have been a little bit better off. But I do feel for Eddie Howe. I hope they keep him, and I hope they do bounce back.
Well, I don't think they'd sack him, but it's whether he would leave. And really, there's no point other than leaving for another Premier League club. So we'll have to see what happens there. Watford, strange, really. They've been quite consistent, really, previous seasons, but I don't really know what's happened this season. I think getting rid of 3 managers probably has not helped at all, has it?
No.
Just sacking Nigel Pearson 2 weeks ago just seems just crazy. But I think out of the 3 that have gone down, I think they're probably more than likely to come straight back up. I think the only thing for them is they do have, of the 3 teams that have gone down, I think they have the better players. And it's whether they can keep hold of those players, I think, will be key to them. But I think players like Troy Deeney will stay there. I don't think, and the back 4 and the goalkeeper, I think, will stay as well.
I think they maybe have a bit of a bigger budget. I know you can't go as wild in the Championship, but you can still afford, with your first season being down there like Villa did. I mean, we only just got away with it, but you can still afford to spend maybe 30 million.
Yeah.
If you're serious about bouncing back up, and that's the way you want to do it, and I think they've got the budget to do that.
Just maybe keeping a manager for a full season next season.
That might help. But if you're a manager, I mean, I don't know about you, Chris, but if I was a manager, I wouldn't want to go to Watford
not
based
after seeing
the last 4.
Not after seeing what they've done.
No, so I don't know who they're going to get in to take it, but it will be interesting to see how they do. I don't think they will come back up. I think a lot of the players there are going to want to leave. I think you're right. Deeney will probably stay, and probably most of the back 4. I don't know about Ben Foster. He's getting on a bit now, but I've just got a feeling that they're going to be one of those big clubs that struggles for a couple of years before they bounce back, almost like Villa did. Really, it took 3 years. I think we thought that we were going to bounce back up at the first time of asking, but the Championship is a very different league, and you need a big squad, and I think you need a physically strong squad to cope with the amount of games that come at you thick and fast. And there are going to be teams down there. Obviously, Cardiff are playing tonight, but that kind of physically strong, long ball, they're not going to take any prisoners. You've got managers like Neil Warnock down there, and it's going to be the old timers. It's a different school of football that I could see Watford struggling a bit to get used to it. But yeah, you never know. Maybe they will be back. They have got the players to do it if they manage to keep them. But we'll wait and see. I couldn't believe it at the weekend from where we were, and I know that I've moaned a lot about Dean Smith, but credit to him. He's kept us up. He deserves a chance to take us into next season now. He deserves another transfer window to try and bring some reinforcements in, which we desperately need.
You need a striker.
We could do with a striker. We could do with probably a couple of wingers. I think the spine of the team in general isn't too bad. I think Heaton, if he's back fit again next year, will be fine as a goalkeeper. No problem there. Mings as a centre-back, yes. Concert really impressed me, actually, after lockdown. I think he played very well. We looked a lot more confident and sure of ourselves in defence when he'd got a few games behind him. So I think he might be okay, but we could probably do with someone with a bit more experience in the Premier League joining us at the back. And obviously with McGinn, and if we keep Grealish, our central midfield area, it might be fine for next year. But they're 2 big ifs, because I think there are some bigger clubs.
Do you think Grealish will go?
If we'd have gone down, yes. as we've survived by the skin of our teeth, and he's been the person to score to keep us up. I don't think he's going to make his own mind up for a couple of weeks. I think maybe if you asked him now, he'd say he wouldn't go, but I still wouldn't begrudge him if he did. And I think the club would be maybe, if the right offer came in, I think the club would probably be right to have a look at it. I think he's done all he can for us now. He's got to think about himself. And we're like, all Villa fans know how good he is. I know he gets a lot of criticism from people that don't support Villa. He goes down too easily and all that kind of stuff. Yes. But when he's on your team and you're under pressure, like we are a lot of the time, because that's how we play, when you're breaking at field, trying to hold on to a 1-0 and he wins you that cheap free kick, it's a good relief for your team. And I think he's sort of doing it. I don't think he's a particularly like lightweight type of player. I think he just does it tactically. He knows that it's going to wind teams up. And I think he would suit a team. I don't think, I'm not talking Man City, Liverpool or anything like that, but I think he would suit a team that's pushing towards Champions League places, maybe Spurs. I don't know whether they play this sort of system that will suit him, but he will get a few goals himself, but he will be a part of more team goals if he goes to a better club. And I do think he deserves it if that's what he wants to do. But he's a Villa fan, so I don't know. If I played for Villa, I would never leave. And I'm a Villa fan. And I don't know whether you think the same about Chelsea, Chris.
Yeah, I think once you're at your favourite club, I don't think there's any real need to sort of move on. I know it's probably different. Obviously, Villa, they were fighting relegation, but I think you go through the thick and thin of it with your club, don't you? So
yeah. I think if he wants to play for England, I think it's possible with us. If we recruit in the summer, we need, like I say, we need strikers. I think we could do with a couple of wingers. I think we definitely need a left back. If we can recruit well, and we're looking at a mid-table finish with Grealish playing well, then I think an England call would not be out of the question. But
no.
if we're struggling again next year, I think come January, if we're in a relegation battle, he might go. But I think he'll probably give us another 6 months now. I think he'll stay for a little bit, but I wouldn't be surprised in January if he goes.
We'll have to wait and see, won't we?
Yeah.
Just a quick bit of news for you. Adam Lallana was signed for Brighton.
Yes, I saw rumours about that earlier. That's a great signing for Brighton. I think he'll do a wonderful job for them.
And apparently, Wolves oil up Adama Traore's arms before the games, so he's harder to try and grab hold of.
It's pretty difficult when he runs at that speed anyway.
Yeah.
I don't think he needs to do that, but there you go.
Yeah, that's a bit of knowledge there for you. But yeah, happy though. Happy you're staying up and
thrilled. It was very nervy. I was, for the whole week after the Arsenal game, I've been on edge. I don't know. I've been, like I said a few weeks ago on the podcast, we were down. We were 7 points adrift of Watford. So thank you to the Watford owners for sacking Nigel Pearson, because that, I think, is the main thing that's kept us in the league.
Obviously, Leeds and West Brom coming up. Who do you think the other team will be? Obviously, Swansea beat Brentford last night as well, 1-0. I think the Cardiff Fulham game's 0-0 at the moment. So
yeah, I fancy Brentford to turn it around. I hope Brentford turn it around in a way, because I've seen a lot of them the last couple of years. They do play really good football. They're going to be at the new stadium next year. Players like Ben Rama and Watkins going forward, they're exciting to watch, and I think they would be a lot of fun in the Premier League.
Yeah.
So I think they'll turn it around against Swansea. I know they lost 1-0 last night.
I'd like them to come up. So obviously, out of the 4 teams, they haven't. I don't think they've ever played in the Premier League, have they? So.
My head says I don't want them to come up, and I want Brentford players to join Dean Smith. That their old manager. Because I wouldn't mind Ben Rama. I've seen quite a bit of him, and I think he's small, but he's very technically gifted. And
I think Fulham. I'd like Brentford to do it. I just think Fulham might.
I think Fulham will come back.
Yeah. Well, we'll wait and see. So yeah, that's the season over with now. The longest season there has ever been in the Premier League, and it all seems, it's almost a year, isn't it? When you think about it, that
Yeah.
obviously, can you remember Villa's first game? Okay, didn't you play Tottenham?
I can. It was Spurs, and we were
Yeah,
winning for such a long time.
you
And
lost
I
the one,
thought this
didn't
season's going to be great if we can
you?
beat
Yeah,
Spurs at Spurs. Then we're in for good things. But yeah, we couldn't quite hold on that
couldn't
one.
couldn't have gone any worse for us because we lost 4-0. So,
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, we'll wrap that up for part one. In part two, Liam's gonna have a story for us. And I've got some wonders of white, and I'm going to try and guess these players that from the teaser. 9 players that have scored for 6 or more Premier League clubs. So we'll be back in part 2. Hello and welcome back to part 2 of this podcast, View from the Sideline. Liam, you've
Yes,
got one last story for us this season,
I do.
and then you've got almost about 4 weeks to see if you can conjure up some more stories from around the world. So let's hear your story this week.
So we've since lockdown, we've been far and wide, haven't we? We've been to Madagascar and
Yeah,
Romania and everywhere. We've been to 1960s Denmark.
we've had animals.
We have had
Yeah.
animals. So for this week, I thought we'd do something a little bit closer to home, something a little bit closer to our generation. This may not be news to you because after doing a little bit of research into this, it was all over the internet and I've just missed it. But hopefully it's completely new. This week's story involves former Ireland international Stephen Ireland. So I thought initially reading this story it was made up. And I did put a little disclaimer when I wrote this to say, Stephen Ireland, if you're listening and this isn't factually correct, just don't sue us. But it's been in newspapers, so I'm not going to say that. This is genuine, bona fide story. So, in order to avoid playing an international match for Ireland, so that he could visit his girlfriend, Stephen Ireland killed his own grandmother. I'm using the term "killed" in inverted commas there because he basically lied to the national team about his own grandmother dying. So, when the so-called death was revealed, the Manchester City midfielder at the time had to actually resurrect his own maternal grandmother, Patricia Tallon, to apologise to his country and his
Oh
club.
my god.
So he later admitted he made up the reason to be excused from Republic of Ireland's 1-0 defeat to Czech Republic in 2007 so he could visit his girlfriend in Cork because she was lonely. He even asked club manager Sven-Goran Eriksson to leave him out of the next club fixture because he was still grieving and had to help with funeral
Oh
arrangements.
my god.
Eriksson went on to describe Stephen Ireland as stupid, and I've got to say, I wholeheartedly agree with him because that is.
Imagine being
How
called
did he think?
stupid from Sven Goran
I know.
Eriksson.
How long did he think he could get away with that for before they checked in? And I don't know. So that's the
Oh,
story this week.
goodness
Stephen Ireland
me.
killed his own grandmother to get out of playing for Ireland.
I've never heard that, and I don't know how I've never heard that, or if I've either heard it and I've just erased it from my memory. But wow, that's a lie too far, I think.
Yes. I always wondered why he didn't play more games for Ireland
Could
because he
he?
obviously at Man City he was he looked a really good prospect.
Yeah.
Came to Villa and it ruined him, which happens to everybody. But
Could he
I
not
always wondered why
just
he played so little
said
for
he was
Ireland. That's
ill?
what
Could he
you
not
would have thought
just?
so. There's so many better excuses than pretending your grandmother's died. So
Oh
yeah,
God. I wonder what he was like. I was like, he phoned up his gran and just be like, "Gran, if anyone calls you, don't answer the phone. If you hear anything on the news to say that you're dead,
don't worry
just
about it.
keep
It's
quiet."
fine.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my word. Well, yeah, that was this week's story, and
I'll
jeez,
compile some more over our summer break.
cool. So yep. So wonders of white this week. So Wolves have finished the season with 0 English goal scorers. This has happened 4 times previously. See if you can guess any of the teams. In fact, one team have done it twice.
So one of them's got to be Arsenal.
Yeah, Arsenal is definitely one of them.
Yeah. Who else might have done it?
I'll give
Who
you a
else
little
had a lot
clue.
of foreign
Both
players?
teams are now in the championship.
Oh, Fulham.
Fulham, yeah, Fulham have done it twice.
Fulham have done it twice. Wow.
Yes, yeah.
And who's down in the Championship?
I think right down near the bottom of the championship.
Huddersfield.
Not quite Huddersfield, a little bit higher than Huddersfield.
A little bit higher. Stoke.
Stoke, yes, they also did it, yeah. Which was crazy.
You don't imagine Stoke as a sort of exotic foreign club, do you? I just picture the players as being English.
This one is quite a good one that I found. So since Southampton lost 9-0 to Leicester, they've gained 44 points since that day, which is actually 2 more points than what Leicester have had in that time period.
They've been playing really well.
Yeah.
Apart from Man United, they've been the best team since lockdown.
Danny Ings would be leading our line in the Euros right now.
Yeah.
Another Leicester-related one. So Jamie Vardy is the oldest Golden Boot winner in the Premier League at 33 years old. Manchester United have broke a Premier League record with the amount of penalties they've received this season, which is 14.
Hands up if you're surprised at that, because my hands are staying firmly down.
I remember, didn't they go for a period of like they had literally about 4 or 5 in a row? And didn't they miss like 4 of them?
Pogba missed a lot.
Pogba and Rashford could decide between themselves who was going to be taking them. But yep, so that's it for that's the one as a white wrapped up for this season. An ongoing feature that can't be replaced because stats are always out.
They are.
Okay, right, this teaser.
Right, let's see who you've got then.
I am certain of 3 players.
So that's a good start.
Anelka is most definitely one of those players.
He is. I'll tell you who he scored for, and he scored for Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester City, Bolton Wanderers, Chelsea, and West Brom. So 2 goals for West Brom before he just quit West Brom? I can't remember what happened there. Did he go on strike or something? There's something weird about his time at West Brom.
He refused to play, didn't he?
Yeah.
He wanted to leave.
Yeah, I didn't think he scored at all, but he did. He got 2 goals.
He wanted to go to either China or somewhere like that, didn't he? And they refused to sell him. Right, okay. Peter Crouch is definitely on that list.
Peter Crouch is also on that list. So Peter Crouch scored his first Premier League goals for Villa, which I completely forgot about. I know he was at Villa, but I thought he played in the Premier League before that. But no, he scored for Villa, Southampton, Liverpool, Portsmouth, Spurs, and Stoke.
I think he's most memorable for his time at Tottenham, I reckon. Or maybe Liverpool.
Interesting you should say that. So he got 22 goals for Liverpool. I know he was there for a few years, but these are obviously only Premier League goals. I actually thought he did better for Portsmouth, but he only scored 11 for them, and he only scored 12 goals for Spurs, which I was quite surprised about. I thought
maybe just the goals he scored for Spurs to stand out more. I don't know.
Yeah.
Craig Bellamy is on
Craig
that
Bellamy,
list.
yes. I think he's played. I think he scored for the most teams. So he scored for Coventry City, Newcastle United, Blackburn, Liverpool, West Ham, Man City, and Cardiff. And I think that's 7, if I counted that right. Yeah, that's 7 clubs.
Right. Okay.
So you got 3. So there is another 6 to guess. Some of them are easy.
My head is like saying Defoe, but I don't think it's Defoe. I don't think Defoe is on. Can I say I rule out Jermaine Defoe? No, do I say Defoe? No, I'm not going to say Defoe yet. I'm going to go with.
Well, I'll help you out because some of them are difficult. So I can say you can rule out Defoe. That's fine.
Okay. The other one I've got on this list is. I'm going to say Robbie Keane.
Another correct answer. 4 out of 4. He scored for Coventry, Leeds, Spurs, Liverpool, West Ham, and of course the mighty Aston Villa. 3 goals to keep us in the league that season.
Okay. Oh no, I'm struggling. Yeah, let me just try and go back a bit. Sunderland, Tottenham. I think I spoke to you. I swear I had a conversation about this guy earlier this week with you, or at the weekend. Marcus Ben, one of the Bents.
Yes,
Oh,
so
hey,
that is what inspired this question.
oh
I
right,
was hoping
okay.
you'd forgotten, but yes, Marcus Bent has
Okay.
scored for excuse me, 6 Premier League teams. So he scored for. Are
Hang
you
on, no,
gonna
actually,
go
no.
for both?
Hang on. Darren Bent. No, I was just say Marcus Bent for now. Marcus Bent.
So Marcus Bent has scored for Crystal Palace, Ipswich, Leicester, Everton, Charlton, and Wigan Athletic,
That's
and he
fine.
hasn't reached double figures for any of them.
Oh,
So yeah,
I'm at 5 now. I've done 5, haven't I?
so that is 5. Do you want to continue?
I'll
Because I did only
say.
originally ask for 5, but you can go for all 9 if you want.
I'll go for the other Ben. I've got no idea.
He is also on the list.
Yeah.
So Ipswich Town, Charlton Athletic, Tottenham Hotspur, Sunderland, Villa, and Fulham. So you've actually got 6 now.
So there's 9.
So there is 9. So there's 3 to guess.
Just give
I'd
me the
say-
rest, mate. I can't think of another one.
Okay, so the one I think is probably the most obvious out of those 3 is Andy Cole, who scored for Newcastle, Man United, Blackburn, Fulham, Man City, and Portsmouth.
I don't even
Then
remember being at Man City or Portsmouth.
he didn't get many for him. I think he got
Yeah.
9 for Man City, and it looks like 3, I think, for Portsmouth. And then probably the one after that is Les Ferdinand, who scored for QPR, Newcastle, Spurs, West Ham. He only got 2 goals for West Ham, Leicester City, and 1 goal for Bolton Wanderers. And then probably the most difficult, certainly the most surprising that I thought is Nick Barmby.
For never would have crossed
Spurs, Middlesbrough, Everton, Liverpool, Leeds, and Hull City. He got 1 goal in Hull's first season in the Premier League. So that's the 9, the famous 9 who
I
scored.
can safely say we could have been here for 2 hours. I probably would have got
Nick Barmby.
I probably
It's a
would have got
difficult
Cole
one.
and Ferdinand, but Nick Barmby, I never would have crossed my mind.
No.
I'm trying to think of other players I would have gone for. I can't really think of many. There's probably a lot that have played for 3, maybe 4.
Yeah.
Score for 4, but I'm quite chuffed for that.
There you go. You did very well.
So yeah, it's a good job I remember that conversation about Marcus Bent, really.
Yeah, so. I thought he's bound to have forgotten that last week, so I'll use that as a teaser. But that's why I thought if I say he only wants 5, then we can count out Marcus Bent, or I could give you that one as 1 anyway. But yeah, there we go. Well done anyway. 6 out of 9, not bad at all. More teasers next season.
Those teasers are done. Maybe I have to switch it up next year a little bit. Start giving you some teasers, I think.
More than welcome. The football oracle is me.
But yeah, so that's it. That's it for this season. Obviously, thanks to Liam for stepping in when needed throughout the season, and then sort of becoming a permanent fixture of the podcast. I think it was just after Christmas, wasn't it? Start of the year, maybe.
Yeah, it's been a great 6 months. I've enjoyed it immensely.
Yeah. So thanks to Liam. Thanks to Rich as well. I can't forget about Rich. Obviously, he's obviously one of the founding members of this podcast, and he was I always sound like I was about to say he was with us for 6 months at the start of the season. That makes him sound like he's passed. I can safely say he's definitely much still here and alive.
He's definitely still a Spurs fan as well.
Yeah, celebrating his Europa League victories for next season. But we will try and get him back on at some point, even if it's just a brief sort of talk about Tottenham. But I think he's I think he's just written this season off a little bit. But yeah, anything else, Liam?
No, just how happy I am that I'm going to be reporting on Villa being in the Premier League next season when we come back.
Yeah, it would have been slightly awkward because obviously we'd have had to be covering the Championship as well.
Yeah, I thought I'd be the resident Championship expert next year, but no, we can
Obviously,
take.
Yeovil Watch will be back as well next season. Obviously, unfortunately, won't be a League Two thing. It will still be a National League. But yeah, thanks to everyone who's listened this season. And still does listen. But yeah, we will be back in probably about a month to 2 months' time when the season resumes. So we will see you then.